Good evening. I call to order this regular meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District. It is April 19th, 2016, and the time is 5:08. Board Member Jackson, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Just in time.
Perfect.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wait.
Okay, I am still live. All right, I'll have a roll call starting from my far right.
Pam Kirby.
Kim Hartman.
George Jackson.
Barbara Perleberg. Board President Sneed is absent, ill. All right, do any of the board members have any changes to the agenda? No indication. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda and as well as the noticed amendment?
So moved.
I'll second.
Kim Hartman, Board Member Hartman moves to approve the agenda as amended. Board Member Kirby seconds the motion. The motion, I guess I need to have a vote, don't I? That line's not there. So we'll vote.
In favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion, aye. The motion passes with a vote of 4-0, correct? Okay. All right. Thank you. The Board President calls upon Superintendent to present recognitions and celebrations.
Now I am. How's that? So, Pro Tem Perleberg, at this time, I would like to invite up to the mic Dr. Sakos and Dr. Van Echten, and they're going to present some student awards.
Vice President Perleberg. Are we on?
You're
Are we on?
You're
Okay.
live.
Vice President Perleberg, members of the board, Dr. Birdwell, Sandra, it is my pleasure to bring before you a Mojave Middle School student, Haley Stevens. Where are you, Haley? There you are. And Assistant Principal, Mrs. Allen. And this is quite an honor. Congratulations to Mojave student, Haley Stevens, for her student-created PBIS award that received international recognition at the annual APBS International Conference and Film Festival in San Francisco last month. The festival received over 60 videos and selected a handful to feature at its conference. Student Haley Stevens, 7th grader at Mojave, wrote, filmed, produced, and edited her own video. The entire film is based on a story, and illustrations are original student artwork. The film, How to Get a Paw, PAW, was selected as a feature because it was completely student created. Congratulations to Haley and the Mojave staff for their continued work and excellence in the area of positive behavior supports on campus. All yours, Dr. Van Echten.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move this rather large notebook for a moment. Yes, thank you very much. Dr. Birdwell, Vice President Perleberg, and governing board members, I have several secondary awards and recognitions to make tonight. First of all, if I could have the Cocopa Middle School Science Olympiad team come join me, and if they have any teacher leadership. Wow, there we go, see? It's all about leadership. Over the weekend of April 8th, students on the Cocopah Middle School students on the Cocopah Middle School team won the second place in the Arizona State Science Olympiad Tournament. The team competed in 26 STEM events with 29 other teams from across the state. The students on the team have been studying, building design projects, and meeting every Thursday after school for the past 7 months. This past year, they competed in 2 invitationals and 1 at the Arizona State Science Olympiad Tournament. Cocopah students took home first place wins and gold medals in Fast Facts, Food Science, Mission Possible, and Picture This. Additionally, the students took home second place wins and silver medals in Experimental Design and Fossils. Every member on the team was recognized and placed in the top 10 at least one event. Congratulations, guys. Nicely done.
Congratulations.
Huge.
Next, if I could have the 2016 State National Geographic Bee winner, this is Dashram Pai. I hope I got the last name correctly. If you could join me at the... Congratulations. Each year, thousands of schools participate in the National Geographic Bee. The contest is designed to motivate students to learn about the world and how it works. Schools with students in grades 4 through 8 are eligible to compete. The 2016 state level of the National Geographic Bee for Arizona was held Friday, April 1st in the Memorial Union of Arizona State University Tempe campus. I'm proud to announce that Dashram, a 6th grade student at Cocopah Middle School, took 3rd place in the competition. Congratulations. Next, if I could have our graphic design winners, Lauren Anderson, Hannah Emery, and Amelia Whittington join me up here. And any teacher sponsors, if we have them? We're missing someone. Oh, no Lauren. Okay, well, regardless, Lauren Anderson, a graphic design student at Desert Mountain School, took top honors at the State of Arizona Skills USA competition on March 30th. Lauren placed first of about 50 competitors during the annual event held at the Phoenix Convention Center. She plans on making the trip to the national competition this summer in Louisville, Kentucky. Lauren not only aced the written exam portion of the competition, but created a stunning rack card and logo design under a tight deadline. Additionally, at the Western States Printing Alliance competition, Lauren took first place for her redesign of the Wolf Print newsletter. Hannah Emery, who's with us tonight, won 3rd place for her awareness poster, and Amelia Whittington, who's with us, took 3rd place for her concert poster. Congratulations, you guys are very talented, and thank you very much. Still more to come. If I could have Taylor Ruck join me, Olympic swim team. Wow, congratulations. This is for you. Taylor Ruck is a sophomore student at Chaparral and a member of the Chaparral swim team. Recently, Taylor became the youngest Arizona Olympian since 1992 when she was named to the Canadian swim team for the Rio Olympics. Taylor finished 2nd in the 400-meter freestyle and 5th in the 200 free during the Olympic trials in Toronto. She competed despite illness during the event. Taylor was born in Canada but has lived almost all of her life here in Arizona. Success is no stranger to Taylor. She was part of the Chaparral's girls swim and dive team that won their 2nd straight swim and dive state championship this fall. She was voted swimmer of the meet, winning both of her individual events. Additionally, Taylor broke her own state record at the meeting. Taylor, we wish you all the success in the world this summer. Congratulations. And if we could have our music state champions, I believe we have 2 students with us tonight. And Mr. Mike Miller, could you join me at the podium, please? maybe we don't have 2 students tonight. I think we have several concerts actually going on this evening, so that could be, are they coming? All right. 13 students from Chaparral, Desert Mountain, and Saguaro were named to the All-State Band, Orchestra, or Choir. These students represent our state champions. Tonight we have the following students in attendance. We have Madison Kearney. Which one's Madison? Madison, congratulations. And Marissa Fireman. Congratulations, Marissa. Thank you all very much, and thank you, Mike. And here's... Next, we have art show winners. If we could have Angelica Butler, Isaiah Gorman, and Brody Begay join me. Any teachers, too, that might be with them? Over the weekend of April 1st, students competed in the 26th Annual American Indian Student Art Show and Sale sponsored by the Heard Museum Guild. This year, 12 Coronado students participated in the event, the largest contingent of students to date. Students represented 4 tribes, the Hopi, Navajo, Pasquayaqui, and Salt River Pima Maricopa. This was the 7th year that Coronado students were selected to participate in the event. I am proud to announce that 3 Coronado students took first place. Angelica Butler, cultural items for her etched shell. We have nicely done. Isaiah Gorman, photography. Isaiah's photos sold within the first 5 minutes of the show. Was nicely done. I hope you got a good price. Brody Begay, computer-generated art and digital photography. This award made Brody a 3-time winner over the past few years. Congratulations. Congratulations to these talented students. I also want to acknowledge the dedication of Sheila Cypress and Mary Long to our students. Thanks, you guys. Oh, and 2. All right, then we have Arcadia High School Winter Guard. I don't know if we have any representatives from them, or is Mr. Gardner here tonight? Yes. Come on up. Congratulations to the Arcadia High School Winter Guard. They earned the title of the 2016 Novice Class Champion at the Winter Guard Arizona Championships on Friday, April 1st. Congratulations to our students, and thank you very much, Mr. Gardner. And lastly, we have 3 different robotics teams to celebrate tonight. If first I could have, well, let me read this. Over the weekend of April 8th, students from Coronado, Arcadia, Chaparral, and Saguaro Robotics competed in the Arizona West Regional Competition at Grand Canyon High School. While the Coronado team did not win an award, they did make it to the elimination rounds and had a very competitive robot. They accomplished this with not only their head coach, and 2 former students mentoring them. If we could first have then our Arcadia High School robotics team come on up. Nice work. The Arcadia High School Robotics team, team number 3187, competed at the Arizona West Regional and received the Gracious Professionalism Award by Johnson & Johnson's. Congratulations, students, for that, and coaches.
Congratulations.
And if next I could have the Chaparral High School robotics team. And coaches and sponsors and whomever. Nice work. Proudly wearing their medals. All right, and additionally, the Chaparral High School robotics team, team number 3019, also competed at the Arizona West Regional Tournament. The team was awarded the Regional Engineering Inspiration Award. Besides earning this award at the West Regional Tournament, the Chaparral High School Firebirds received an invitation to compete in the first robotics championship in St. Louis, Missouri, April 27th through 30th, 2016. That's coming up. Congratulations, teams and coach. Nicely done.
Good luck in St. Louis, guys.
And lastly, if we could have the Saguaro High School robotics team join us up here with coaches, sponsors. Robotics Awards are no stranger to the to Saguaro High School. Saguaro Team 4146 received 3 awards at the Arizona West Regional Tournament. The team was awarded the Industrial Safety Award, sponsored by Underwriters Laboratory. Additionally, the team was recognized as the regional finalist and received the Wildcard Award. The Saguaro High School SaberCats have also been invited to the 2016 First for Inspirational and Recognition of Science and Technology Championship in St. Louis. They'll be joining Chaparral. The championships will feature 900 teams from 39 countries. 20,000 youth will be in attendance. Congratulations to this very talented team, and best of luck to you in St. Louis.
Ooh, presents.
Good luck in St.
Thank
Louis.
you. Good luck.
Yeah, go get 'em.
Congratulations. All right. I like that. Awesome. All right. Okay. Is that your public comment time? All right. We do have public comments this evening on non-agenda items. As a reminder, each speaker will have 3 minutes. Board Member Jackson will indicate the time for us tonight. Please know that personal attacks upon board members, staff personnel, or other persons in attendance or absent by individuals who address the board are not acceptable. Thank you. Action taken as a result of this kind of public comment will be limited to responding to any criticism made by those who have addressed the governing board, directing staff to look into the matter, or asking that the matter be put on a future agenda. No other discussion or legal action is allowed. Our first public comment this evening is from Jenny Ekstrom.
Hello, thank you, members of the board, Dr. Birdwell. My name is Jenny Ekstrom, and I am an alumni of Scottsdale Unified School District. I am a 30-year veteran who has been honored with awards during my career, and I have worked both in the private and the public sector and at the elementary and college levels. Based on my background, experience, and my morals, I believe that it is incumbent upon me to bring some things to your attention. I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Sequoia, and my income from SUSD does not afford me to pay my bills. So I also teach classes at NAU. Despite my first pay raise in several years that was indicated on my contract, after several years, there was a raise indicated of $2,300. My W-2s reflected a decrease of $5,000 in my income this last year alone. I understand that I am not alone in this phenomenon, with this fabulous phenomenon, but I'm speaking to you of my own personal story. I'm asking you, how am I to encourage my college students to enter this profession in all good consciousness? What's more, teachers' salaries are now based on test scores and principal evaluations. While I support accountability and performance measurement, I believe that we need a better system in place. While data review is important, currently it's not growing students' learning. It is not showing it reflects student growth, but it is not growing students. There's a Chinese proverb that a tree measured does not help it grow. Data is being used at times to chastise and demean teachers rather than to guide instruction. Then I am learning this year, I've learned, it seems, that principals' evaluations are uncontestable. And so if that's wrong, I want to clarify there. Still, they are not accountable. Principals don't seem to be accountable for how they're scoring teachers, why they've scored them as such, or putting programs in place to help teachers improve. Currently, I have a principal who has not articulated what she wants from some teachers besides higher test scores. For the last 2 years in my instruction, there's been no conversation with this particular individual about what to do to increase student learning, only about scores. So I believe I've gone through the proper protocols. Sorry?
30 seconds.
Okay. I believe I've gone through the proper channels to address this to no avail. And so while others may seem prudent or wise to remain silent, I believe that it is only appropriate that I speak for their rights in a state where we are required to report abuse. I feel like, why wouldn't I do that for my colleagues and for myself? I'm appealing to you, as I believe that that's what's best for you want what's best for our students, our teachers, and our schools, and you are in a position to do something to correct the wrongs and move toward improvement in vital ways. I would invite you to speak to me or anyone on my campus, community, candidly. Thank you for your time.
Our next comment is from Julie Sinowski.
Good evening, board members and Madam Vice President, Dr. Birdwell and Sandra. It's evident through our presentations this evening that there's a lot of success in our school system here in Scottsdale. One thing that has become very evident to me is in our school systems, we're trained to seek out comparisons. These comparisons help validate many things, our progress, our success, and even our worth. We make comparisons of test scores, sports scores, and even compensation. We create a history based on these statistics. These statistics guide us through many decisions. In Scottsdale schools, we have many success stories to celebrate. We even have perfect test scores, state championship teams, professional caliber fine arts performances, museum quality work displayed, many national merit finalists, healthy students, great programs offered like calculus camp to support students, obviously robotics here this evening, and others to build understanding and acceptance beyond the classroom, including the amazing Unitown experience. Dozens of clubs are offered as opportunities to students, even student government. The list of remediation and enrichments, as many of you know here tonight, for our Scottsdale students goes on and on. We are fortunate to have the success that we do. We must continue to promote these points that set us aside far and above the true scope of our proclaimed competition. We can attribute the success of our Scottsdale district to many things: supportive parents and communities, the development of supportive instructional and learning opportunities based on students' needs and interests, and to our vital support staff. Ultimately, though, we must honor our teachers better. The teachers in Scottsdale continue to prove that year after year, they are beyond capable of greatness, that they demonstrate grit and rigor and creativity to overcome challenges, not just in the classroom, but when it comes to hitting one's pocketbook as well. Teachers continue to show up day after day because they care about their students, they care about improving their craft, and they care about keeping the promise of quality education for all. We are aware of the sad stories of great teachers having to leave the profession due to pension constraints or the harsh reality that one or even two jobs is not enough to make ends meet. I present to you this evening a challenge. How do we compare as a district to other in regards to flat-out compensation? I conceptually understand the reasons why some districts pay more to teachers. Factors are a reality, but I question why can't we safeguard our teachers with better compensation in Scottsdale? I challenge that we find a way to show our appreciation and respect for our teachers by allowing teachers to have just one job, to better compensate those already serving Scottsdale school students. I challenge us to put in place elected officials who care about enough to support our district public schools. I believe we're all smart enough here to pull together and figure this monumental challenge out. Let's make this a priority. Thank you for your time.
Our next comment will be from Mr. Edmund Richard.
Board members, Dr. Birdwell, I come before you today because while finishing my degree, I did some rather interesting data analysis of this district. I would say shocked, but I'm not, to hear that our teachers are paid according to test scores. I have 6 children which are either in or have been in Scottsdale schools. They are all in the lowest testing schools in this district. Not only that, where this board meeting is held has the lowest graduation rate. Now, as a parent, it is very embarrassing for me to explain to my children when they look at these raw numbers that they are in the worst of Scottsdale. As a matter of fact, I actually had a principal call me and tell me that my words were short-sighted because, in her words, it would take a minimum of 3 to 5 years for some of these schools to turn around if they have proper leadership. Now, I can tell you all as parents, who is going to accept that, not as a challenge, but not as a slap in the face, to tell me as a parent that my kids are going to lose 3 to 5 years of quality education? I have a son in 3rd grade. Are you trying to tell me that by 8th grade, maybe something will be done? Because I can tell you this, drill down the numbers from the state of Arizona, not the numbers which are created by some in-house staff here, but drill down those numbers and look and see where this district is falling on its face. And honestly, I feel sorry for all my teachers in all my children's schools, because I know they deserve better than to be judged by scores. But unfortunately, since 2008, every one of their schools has gone down. So this is not really a challenge for you, but this is something you have to do. How can you say you're competitive when the children who need it the most get the very least? I am terribly ashamed that I had to have the discussion with my children. I think right now the actions of Dr. Birdwell, which I'm thankful that her contract was extended, do result in some changes. If not, I will be here until my very last son graduates. And I certainly hope by that point someone tells me my son has got the quality education he deserves. Thank you.
Our last comment will be from Mr. Jim Heather.
Last week, board members, Dr. Birdwell, last board meeting, I called you guys out. I asked you to do your job. Tonight, I want to thank you. You did your job. You put her on, gave her that 1-year extension that we are so happy she got. I think she's going to be a big help to us. So, thank you. With that being said, Dr. Birdwell. This board just gave you an awful lot to put on your plate. You are going to have, you are the mother lion of this community, of these children. Okay? In the animal world, what does the mother lion do? Mother tiger, what does she do? She takes and nurtures. She helps these cubs to make sure that they grow up to be the best they can get as they grow up. Tonight, we're looking at her to do the same thing with our students. She's going to be the mother tiger. She's got a lot of cubs to take care of. So tonight, the Scottsdale Coalition, Nancy Canner and myself, and the Coronado Complex, we would like you to put this in your office and every day take a look at it and look at the mother tiger and look at the cubs that you are going to be nurturing and bringing along to get the best education they can get. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very sweet.
Dr. Burrow.
Thank you. I kind of think a tiger's appropriate, honestly. I think that's awesome. All right, so next we will have superintendent's comments.
This is a take a tiger by the tail moment. Well, we have a few things to celebrate this evening. I would like to start off with the Government Financial Officers Association. Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Records. And we, again, are thanking our financial department for the hard work. And so for Mr. O'Brien, thank the team, the folks that are doing so much work behind the scenes. And again, thank you for your leadership. AZ merit testing. So for the community that's logging on this evening, we know that testing has begun and will continue. We just wanted to report that all but one school is testing through the computers this year, and it seems to be running smoothly. We'll be anxious to see what the results are in comparison to those paper and pen tests that we took last year. Voices of Saguaro. March 31st through April 2nd, the Saguaro Concert Choir accepted an invitation from the Choirs of America to be one of a handful of elite choirs to perform in the 2016 COA Nationals in New York. Not only did our students have the opportunity to participate in clanks and perform as part of an 800-voice choir, but the Voices of Saguaro, under the direction of Miss Gail Tutnick, performed alone in Carnegie Hall. This was a wonderful opportunity to showcase many of the talented students and staff in our Performing Arts Department, so congratulations to these students and their instructor. And Jump Rope for Heart fundraiser. Cochise Elementary Physical Education teachers, Julie Merrihew and Kaylee Little, coordinated the annual fundraiser, Jump Rope for Heart. Now, I just have to say this to these two teachers. I did this when I was a PE teacher 33 years ago. So I want you to know this program's been around for a while. It continues to do great work and awareness through the American Heart Association. They raised $21,707 and are currently ranked #1 in the state of Arizona, so congratulations. The PBIS Film Festival on Tuesday, March 22nd. Approximately 200 staff, students, parents, and community members attended the PBIS Film Festival held at Saguaro High School. Over 30 videos from over 15 campuses were shown, and the following groups earned these awards. Kiva Rap, Best in Show. Desert Canyon Elementary School, Best in Show. Mountainside Roar, Most Community Involvement. Copper Ridge, Nice Girls, Most Creative. Pima Playground, Most Positive. Kiva Kindergarten, Most PBIS Centered. Congratulations to all of our participants. And coming up this Friday is the Charles Foundation event. So again, our partnership with the Charles, we appreciate. They are going to be having the Charles Foundation Outstanding Educator and High School Student of the Year. And this is the 30th annual Outstanding Educators and Student Award Banquet on Friday, April 22nd, and I am so looking forward to being there. Now, I have some new positions I'd like to announce, and if I could have the individuals come up to the front so you can meet them. So we'll start off with Dr. Anna McCauley, the Assistant Superintendent of Accountability and Instruction, as she makes her way up here. So as the governing board approves the agenda this evening, these individuals will start with us soon. Dr. McCauley will join us July 1st. I did a presentation on the organizational chart, and I happened to mention 3 or 4 individuals in the state who are the leaders in this particular field, and by all means, Dr. McCauley is a leader in accountability and assessment, and we are fortunate that she has agreed to join the Scottsdale team. So very pleased to have her. Casa Grande, then the Higley District, and now the proud Scottsdale Unified School District. So thank you. Also, we're bringing to the governing board this evening Dr. Steve Nance, the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. Now, Dr. Nance has spent a little time in Yuma, a little bit of time in Gilbert, some time in Scottsdale, where a superintendent in Higley convinced him to come to over to her district, and then she came to Scottsdale and said, would you please come back? So Dr. Nance is now back with the Scottsdale Unified School District. We're very excited. He, however, will start May 1st, and the first thing he'll do is start meeting with our gifted parents and teachers and talking about the gifted program here in Scottsdale if he is approved this evening. So very excited to have Dr. Nance join us. Krista Anderson coming to us as Executive Director of Special Education. Some time spent in the Glendale District, in Deer Valley as the Assistant and the Associate Superintendent in the Paradise Valley Unified School District. The amazing talent and skill that this young lady brings to us, we are so very fortunate to have her join the Scottsdale Unified School District. Thank you. Now let me declare that I did not serve on this principal committee, but Kathleen Hughes, coming to us from California via the Higley School District, is the new principal for the ANLC. Kathleen has spent time as an elementary principal, as a reading specialist, as a district level position in California. She has an amazing amount of talent, and I guarantee you she will be welcomed in our community. She is a great leader. So thank you, Kat. Tamara Jadadinsky, did I say it right? Tamara, I'm so trying. Jadadinsky? If you say it fast enough, it just sounds good. Principal Hopi, an assistant principal currently in the Scottsdale Unified School District. I had the privilege to interview her. I was extremely impressed and stand behind this decision of the committee 100%. An amazing leader, and I expect great things as our Hopi principal. another Scottsdale Unified School District Assistant Principal, moving to the Principal of Tonalea, David Praninsky. Again, very proud, appreciate his work and commitment to the Scottsdale Unified School District, and look forward to working with him. Again, impressed with his interviewing as well. Finally, I also would like to bring up Dr. Chris Thuman, our principal at Ingleside. As you can see, he won over the community with his enthusiasm, personality. Dr. Thuman has spent the time in our community education department. He has been at the district level, and again, we are very fortunate to have one of our own Scottsdale individuals take over the leadership at Ingleside. So this is the crew we're bringing to you this evening. We've been interviewing quickly in order to make sure we did not lose our market. So governing board, I introduced the new principals and assistant superintendent cabinet folks. So thanks for joining the Scottsdale School District. So, as every good principal knows, we can't do our work without wonderful assistant principals in our buildings, and it just so happened that this past week has been Assistant Principal Week, and we wanted to take a moment just to say thank you to all of those assistant principals as they manage our schools, take care of student issues, and again, support our parents with their needs and concerns. Our schools are better because of their leadership, so thank you, assistant principals. Public School Volunteer Week. We also want to celebrate all of the volunteers who spend hours and hours in our school district. We especially thank our parent and community members who volunteer of their time and the countless hours that they give to our students. We could not do it without you. Thank you very much, volunteers. April recognizes school librarians. During the month of April, school librarians and their programs are celebrated. Our school librarians provide materials for teachers and students and encourage growth and knowledge. We here in the Scottsdale District want to thank you, and in addition, for the families who don't have those reading materials at home, the librarians sometimes are the first avenue to those books that go home for our students. So thank you again for the service to our children. Teacher Appreciation Week coming up May 2nd through the 6th. So thank a teacher, thank a Scottsdale teacher, and if you don't know a Scottsdale teacher, for those of you logging on tonight and listening, remember to call a teacher that you had in your past and thank them, because those thank yous still mean as much as they first did. Again, thank you to all the teachers for being dedicated for the profession, and for those of you who had the courage to speak tonight, thank you for always sharing with us. That's the end of my report.
Right, thank you. Thank you, and welcome to all our new staff, and congratulations to our current staff for their new positions. I think on the board, maybe we should all just say, sorry, Higley, but whatever. Our next
I imagine that they're watching this evening, so.
Too bad. So, all right, consent agenda is next. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended and noticed? Or is there comment first?
So moved.
Board Member Kirby moves to approve the consent agenda.
I'll
as
second it.
amended. Board Member Jackson seconds the motion. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. The motion passes with a vote of 4-0. Next, okay. Now, next will be our information and discussion items. Our first item on the agenda, I believe, is item 8A, District Facilities Master Plan Summary.
Thank you. At this time, Governing Board, we have, actually, Terry, are you going to come up and do a little introduction? Thank you, Terry. We have been embarking the last month and a half on the analysis of the school district and looking at each building to make sure we truly understand what we have here in the Scottsdale district. This is a 12-month process that we'll be going through, but we spent the first part of it in the 8 oldest buildings, as we believe that if the board down the road decided to go for a bond, that this is a critical information to understand. And just want you to know that behind the summary this evening, ladies and gentlemen, the governing board has had 2 study sessions where they got into the numbers and the detail that sit in this very large book that we all appreciate, and it will be full by the time that it is done, but it'll be multiple volumes as well, because that's just 8 schools right now, and we have 31 schools to look at. But you must have master planning. It is critical as you fiscally manage a district to understand what is inside every building and making sure that it stays safe and the things are replaced and we have the very best environments for children to learn. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over, Terry, and I'll let you do the introduction, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Birdwell, Vice President Perleberg, governing board members, Dr. Birdwell, and Sandra. Tonight we just have a recap of what we've been looking at through the study sessions for the last 2 weeks. There will obviously be more information coming as we progress through the schools. And so the summary we have tonight is just what we have seen and heard. That will be put out into the public very soon. Christine and I are working in her very capable department on creating a page so that the public can go and look at the presentations that have been made in study session. So that will be up in just a few days. And so with us tonight is Allison Serrano. Allison is a partner of a facility management group, FMG, and Allison's work is related to going through each school, walking through the school, and being able to develop a very detailed and very useful life cycle cost model. And that will be a very useful tool. Advocate very much a useful tool so that as we look at forthcoming costs and how we should spend our money related to the resources that we have in places within our facilities. Very good asset management. And so it is very foresightful, and it is down, if you will, down the road, a very solid tool. So with that, I'll step back and allow Allison to proceed.
Thank you, Terry. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Birdwell. I want to say, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to work with Scottsdale Unified School District. I'm a graduate of Pima Elementary School and Scottsdale High, and both, yes, okay, I'm vertically challenged. Both my in-laws and my father still live in district, so I'm very proud to be here tonight. The life cycle study we do is one that we came up with when we realized that most of the school districts that we work with are very large real estate holding entities, and private entities who hold a lot of real estate look at their facilities in terms of life cycle. Everything in this room has a life cycle: the carpet, the paint, the ceiling tile, the light fixtures. And you need to look at your properties as a school district in that same way. Private entities with lots of money, of course, they plan ahead. They know that the carpet has a 15-year lifespan, and before it expires, they replace it. Unfortunately, we understand that school districts don't have the opportunity to do that because of the state. So I want to run through the process we did to get this data, and I welcome any questions as we go along. So first of all, we gathered a list, and we work with school districts. I'm an architect. I've worked designing school districts, building schools, managing bond programs for school districts. So we put together a list of everything we could think of that goes into a school district that might have a life cycle. And then working with the contractors and the knowledge that we have in the state of what school items cost, we put every item has a cost and it has a life cycle. I'm going to skip through some of this. So there's a example of some of the things that we run into in every single school district we go to. Everybody has carpet, ceramic tile, acoustic ceiling tiles, all of those things. They all have a cost, they all have a life cycle. Then we get your plans from your facilities department. We have them digitized, and we put them into a program called On-Screen Takeoff, which allows us to quantify all of those materials in all of those buildings. So by classroom, I can tell you in Pima Elementary School, classroom 123 has 900 square feet of carpet, 900 square feet of ceiling tile, 8 light fixtures, 10 linear feet of cabinet, that sort of thing. So that's what we've done. for the first 8 elementary schools. We also then go through and we physically walk the schools. We go with a roofing expert, an HVAC expert, and then myself and my business partner, who's also an architect. And we evaluate the percentage remaining in each of those items. So, for example, I would look at this carpet in here and say, you could probably get another 10 years out of it. Some people might say less because it's based on your perception of it. But I know that school districts need to get as much out of their carpet, for example, as possible. So I walked through, the first one you see up here is PIMA as an example. When we put all that data into our spreadsheet, it tells you when things are going to break. I'm not looking at infrastructure, I'm not looking at piping under the slab, I'm not looking at the things that your maintenance department has handled very well, obviously, if these schools are this old. So I'm just looking at the things that are going to break in the next 10, 20 years. And you can see here for PIMA as an example, just in the next 5 years, it's going to take almost $2.9 million just to replace the carpet, the sinks, the drinking fountains, the roof, to paint it, those kind of things that have the asphalt in the parking lots, just to reseal that parking lot. And so what we do then is, this is the big slide. This is the summary of the first 8 schools we looked at for the first 10 years, just to replace those items that I've talked about, carpet, paint, countertops, that sort of thing. So that's $33 million for Hohokam, Hopi, Kiva, Navajo, 68th Street, Cherokee, Pima, and Pueblo. Again, I can't emphasize enough how well your facilities staff has taken care of these buildings. Having gone to Pima, I think I walked in one of the rooms and I think it was the same carpet. So you've gotten your life cycle out of those. I've summarized the findings, and they're pretty much all the same for all the schools. They're almost all their original finishes, carpet, cabinets. Hohokam has original air conditioning units. They have original drinking fountains, toilet fixtures. Several of the campuses, I'm going to skip through this pretty quickly in case you want to stop me. I think Navajo and Hohokam have plexiglass windows, so they don't even have glass in a lot of the windows. Their door hardware doesn't meet current accessibility guidelines, or some security in that a teacher would have to lock the door from outside. They can't lock the door from the inside. So those are things that, when I say that the hardware has expired, it has no life left, that's what we're talking about when we go through these. Again, let me just look at some of the highlights here. The cabinetry is original. It's wood, but it's tired. There's some water damage in a lot of the sites. Cherokee, same, roof leaks, cracked concrete, and Hohokam, same thing. So, and then I just put a couple pictures there of some of the things. I mean, those drinking fountains were there at Pima when I was there, and they're doing the best they can. The galvanized pipe under the slab, that's not something we look at. I don't have a price to fix that in this. That's a construction issue. So I'm trying to keep this very data-driven, very simple in that these are the things that large real estate holding companies look at in terms of their buildings, and I think that schools need to look at it the same way. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? I see no.
All good? Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Governing Board, just for the minutes, to let you know that we're creating a place on the website that will say facilities management, and as we do these reports, we're going to load up the summaries and information so that anybody in the public can read the larger report. And then anytime that we're talking about interrelated pieces, they will be loaded on there as well. And we're making sure that's an easy tab off the front so that people aren't searching in the layers to try to find the information that's so important to them. So as this is a topic that we'll be covering over the next few months, we want it very easy to be found.
All right. Thank you. Next Item for information discussion, item A to B, teacher evaluation instrument.
Ready? All right, good evening, Madam Vice President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Birdwell and Sandra. This evening, I'm going to share with you some information regarding the Teacher Evaluation Committee. We meet every year, and so this is an update from this year. This year, we did take a look at the TOA instructional coach evaluation. We had a working group going, as well as what were their next steps they wanted to look at for next year moving forward. So you might remember last year I brought to the committee OT-PT evaluations, occupational therapist and the physical therapist. And we brought to the committee changes that they wanted to make, not necessarily in the evaluation, the final document, but in the process that they use and the language to help support those different documents. So this year, the group wanted to work on the teacher on assignment one and instructional coaches because it needed to be aligned a little bit better. We had a working group, and these are the members of the working group. They did a great job working together on it. They represent a number of different areas. So these are all teacher on assignments or instructional coaches that either work at a site level, instructional technology, English immersion, the gifted program, curriculum areas. We had representation from all the different groups to come together to work on this. The highlights this year, all of the 5 areas remained identical to the regular teacher evaluation. All of the 8 standards remained identical. The only thing that they looked at changing in the end was teachers changed to coach throughout the document and students changed to learners. And you each should have received the red line, probably 20-some pages of the red line of the document that the teachers and the principal used during the evaluation. And here's just a quick sample of one of the items where on the teacher, it says promotes student self-assessment. The teacher on assignments and instructional coaches replace student with learner because they work with adults. They're working with the teachers. So they actually work to still promote the self-assessment, but they're supporting the teachers doing that self-assessment instead of the student. So it was only a language change. There was no content of the actual evaluation change. It's the same evaluation tool in the end, but the documentation to help them while they're using our evaluation tool, that's where all the language changes came. The committee then talks about what do we want to take a look at for next year and moving forward and what might that look like. So we would like to begin using the formative document and moving forward, and a self-reflection document. So a self-reflection document we used to have years ago, and it allows the teacher to do self-reflecting themselves. Right now on the tool, there's comment boxes, and teachers may put a comment in or they may not. Well, working with the principal, the teacher and principal together would decide whether they want to do a self-reflection process, and then the teacher would put in their reflection on the different standards, and then they'd come together and still do the same process of filling out the ratings and having end of the year conference and doing observations. All that would remain the same. It would just allow them the tool, if they with their principal agreed that that's the process they wanted to use, to actually do their self-reflection right on the tool in the system that we use. And then the committee next year already talked about wanting to look at counselors' evaluations. And so similar to how we do that, I would pull together a group of counselors. They would take a look at the documents. And all these recommendations that the committee works on do go through meet and confer before they come to the governing board. So they talked already about wanting to take a look at counselors' evaluations to make sure the tool matches the work that the counselors are doing at our school. Questions?
Any questions? Board Member Hartman?
Thank you, Board Member Sneed. First, also, I had my light on before, so I just wanted to mention on the prior presentation, just for the benefit of the audience and the community, that we've had hours of conversations with Allison Siriano of FMG, and have had opportunities to ask a lot of questions, all of which have been primarily in the work study. So just wanted you all to know that the lack of comment wasn't for the lack of interest. It was, we've spent a lot of time on it, so thank you. Dr. Sitton, thank you very much, and thank you for continuing to work with the work group and proactively work through this process. It's definitely a best practice to continuously improve, so that's super. I just had a really basic question, and maybe I should know this, but I thought I would ask it tonight since others might be interested anyhow, and that is the evaluations themselves, the structure, is that based on a national standard upon which we then continuously improve upon? And then my second question is, and I should maybe know this, but I'm still learning a lot of things, is the evaluation process an annual review process based on anniversary, or is it tied to a date for everybody? How does that work?
Board Member Hartman, it is tied to the school year. So every year there is an evaluation process that takes place, begins in August and then ends in the spring. So that's every year. We take a look at our national standards. Charlotte Danielson has the national standards around the teaching model, and also the Arizona Department of Education takes a look at what are the standards for the state, and that's what we build them on. Similar to our principal and our administrator one is based on some standards too. So we look to what the state is doing in the standards.
Okay. Board Member Kirby?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sitton. And similar to Board Member Hartman, I have a high-level process question, and it somewhat gets to public comment tonight. Can you just please address, once the instrument is used to complete an evaluation of a teacher by a principal, is there an appeal process? I should know this as well, and maybe I just forgot. But is there an appeal process? And is that in policy, is that in procedure, where is that addressed?
So we do have an appeal process taking a look at whether the process was used, and I believe it is in the governing board policy is the appeal process that they can do if the process wasn't done properly. There is also an appeal process outside of evaluation, but the evaluation becomes part of the teacher classification around the data. So there's an appeal process, and that's in the teacher employment agreement.
To that, could you just elaborate a bit on what data is used in these evaluations?
So it's not part of the evaluation at all. The evaluation process is the tool that we use. I'm just looking at Michelle, make sure I'm good here. So the data is used around state statute that requires data use for the teacher classification. Totally different than the evaluation system itself. It's not part of the evaluation. State statute requires that we have a teacher classification. 33% of that must come from data. That's where the data comes in for the teacher classification. It's actually not part of the teacher evaluation tool itself.
Okay, so I'm trying to clarify. So there's an appeal process to determine if the process was used, but there's not, is there an appeal process on the outcome of the evaluation
There
itself?
is no appeal process on the ratings. You have qualified evaluators that do the evaluation with the teachers, and there is no appeal process that goes to the ratings that are on an evaluation.
Dr. Sitton, is there the ability for the employee to respond to an evaluation and have it placed with the evaluation in file?
Yes, they can. Any response that's attached to the evaluation goes in the file with their evaluation.
But to clarify, there's not, it's just a response that goes in the file, and if the evaluation results in a teacher being terminated, it's kind of too bad. I mean, I'm just trying to really understand, and I don't know what other districts do. I don't know what best practices are. It just seems somewhat abrupt the way it just stops. And
Well, I think it's a little bit further than the agenda is, so I'm looking at legal counsel starting to get a little nervous on me. So maybe what we could do is bring back a process of appeal process to evaluations and dig a little deeper in than that and have that conversation?
That'd be fine, and I appreciate that, and including just not only what we do, but what other districts, what other best practices are, and maybe we are the best practice, I don't know.
Sure.
Okay,
That'd
thank
be great.
you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? Then I'll move on to my own because I too have some that I should probably know, but need just a little clarification. So for TOAs and coaches, specifically, who, since they quite often are on a variety of campuses, who is actually responsible for their evaluations?
It depends on which type we're talking about. So like an instructional coach who's on the campus, the principal does their evaluation. If we're taking a look at a curriculum specialist, well, then they would fall under Diane Whitmore in that department. Or if we're looking at technology, then they'd go under the director of technology. So it depends on which department they come to, but if they are on the campus, then the principal does that evaluation.
Okay, and the same is for the TOAs. If they visit a variety of campuses, there's someone.
Well, they wouldn't be connected to a campus. So an example would be we have someone in the curriculum department, a teacher on assignment around English language, ELA. They would actually fall under Diane Whitmore, would be their supervisor, and would be responsible for doing evaluation and doing observations and seeing how they work with the teachers in their professional development and things like that.
So is it then, is based on observations, I assume at the variety of campuses? Are there also any documents, like teacher surveys or any sort of questionnaires for those that they work with? Is that a part of the evaluation at all, as far as feedback from the teachers that they coach or work
all
with?
evaluations will take into multiple different things that they use. So taking a look at, they do surveys after professional development opportunities that the teachers do take, and I'm sure that the curriculum department, I know I've looked at them too, that they analyze and look at that. There's not one specific that that is connected to like this standard one, it's this type of survey we're looking at, but it goes into that whole work that they're doing, and they do surveys after professional development opportunities to gather feedback.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else on this item? Sir, apologize for missing your light earlier. Glad you made that comment. All right, thank you, Dr. Sitton. And our next item for information discussion is item 8C, budget update fiscal year 17.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Birdwell and Sandra. This evening, I will be presenting to the board a updated informational draft on the possible usage of budget capacity revenue received from Proposition 123. We have looked at this before in the past. We have changed it, worked with some of the groups, the employee groups, and so really just want to kind of bring back an update for the board as we work through this. Again, this is informational. It's a draft. It's a living document. It can be changed. So as we continue to go through the budget process to the end of the year, things can be changed if needed to. So the first section here is for what we're calling the one-time funds, or the dollars that would be received in this current fiscal year from Proposition 123. As stated previously, right now, because we don't have all the full information, we are using the JLBC, which is the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, estimate for what they believe will be our share of the revenue. Currently, right now, for this fiscal year, that would be at approximately $5 million. It's a little bit higher than 5, but 5 is a nice round number. So we will receive that this year. Some expenses or some spending that we have tied to that. First, we have some dollars, a little over $1.7 million to be used for curriculum, facilities, and technology. Again, as the board might remember, we do not have a capital override anymore. This was last year was last year of it. And so as we still have the needs, we don't have the budget capacity for it. So we are setting some dollars aside to help us get through that, either until we get other capital dollars or until maybe a capital override is pursued again by the governing board. And then the next few items are salary or compensation. The first one is looking at some of our more experienced employees who have been here for a while. And so we're looking at giving employees with 7+ years of service some one-time recognition dollars or compensation. So that, through that, it's about 1.5% of their salary. And again, I always like to mention, when we see numbers up here, I know our folks at home or our folks in the audience might go and try to recalculate that. That has taxes and ASRS and some other items in it, so we can't just quite divide it by the number of employees and figure that out. So just like to remind that. Of just over $1.1 million, and that will go out again as a one-time supplemental pay to the employees. Our next few items are one-time payments to the 3 individual employee groups. So we have certified, classified, and administrative. So you can see there that we have 1.3, just under 5, and under 300,000. Goes through and comes down. You see that we have a small remaining balance. At it. Again, this is an estimate, so it could change once the final figures and the final information comes out. So again, these numbers can change slightly. This is very similar. This is similar or exactly the same as I've presented before, so not much changing here. Let's see if I think I'm going to have to adjust. No, I can fit it all on one page. Good. So this is now fiscal year 17, what we will be possibly doing or discussing doing for fiscal year 17. This one, again, we're using JOBC estimate of the $5 million. And then with it being a new budget year and the way that the formula works, and that quite a bit of this money is an increase to the base level amount within the formula, that there'll be an increase in our override also, because the override is a percentage of our revenue control limit. So we get a little bit more money. Again, remembering that these dollars are tied to ADM. Because a majority of them are tied to the base support level is tied to ADM. So as our ADM changes, these dollars can change. So just remembering that these aren't set numbers for the remainder of the years. Some of the expenses or some of the spending that we are looking at doing, we have funding our SROs. Remember, this year we got a one-time reprieve from the city of Scottsdale to help us through this fiscal year, so we have to add that back into our budget. And then we'll go through, here's where some of the changes are. So from the previous presentation, we have increased the amount of pay that will be going to the certified staff. You can see there we have a compensation increase of approximately 3%. We have horizontal movement for employees that qualify for fiscal year 17, so this is only one horizontal move for next fiscal year. We have adding 1 contract day for teachers for professional development. And then we go also to looking at those 7+ years employees who have been there and giving them a compensation increase of approximately 2%. So again, that all comes up, and if I did all the math right, just below $4 million. So an increase from the last time that we looked at it. Going down next, we have classified pay raises of equivalent of 3%, administrative pay raises equivalent of 2%. And again, we talk about equivalent because we are still working through, and again, this is a draft, so it can change. We are still working with the 3 employee groups through the meet and confer process to find out exactly how they want to kind of spend this money and stuff, but this is kind of what we're looking at here. So once we get through all 3 of those processes, we'll have more concrete numbers. And then we have program innovation. We talk a lot about, especially during our strategic plan, about what can the sites do to help continue to raise the bar at their sites. So we have program innovation, which is elementary world language. We then have the instructional resource assistance in the media center. This is at the elementary center, or elementary school, excuse me. And this is a request that has come from those principals. The instructional resource assistants are the classified employee that has taken the place of the librarian as we phased librarians out over the past many years. And so with them, and now the librarian not being there, the instructional resource assistant's job has changed. quite a bit as they're working through that. With a request from the elementary principals, we will be doing a salary adjustment and increasing those salaries for some of the workload that we've added over the past several years as we've transitioned librarians out. And then to maintain the technology TOA positions, there's 3 of them in the district at approximately 160. So we get to about $5.5 million, so we have a little bit remaining. But again, I'll go back to something I said in the very beginning. This is tied to ADM. So as ADM stays flat, changes or increases or decreases over the life of this proposal, which is the 10 years, these dollars will change. So I know everybody wants that remaining number to be 0, but because it's an estimate and it's going to change over the year, either increase or decrease, we need to be cautious of that so that every year when we have this conversation, we understand that there might be some adjustments along the way. And I will take any questions.
Okay. Board Member Kirby.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. I just have a few questions. I'm not going to get too specific right now. As I hear you, we have a lot of information still that we need from the state, particularly in May, before we need to really put a sharp pencil to this. But until then, back to the one-time funds page. The line item that says capital funds for curriculum, facilities, and technology. I guess what I'm unclear on is if the board decides to put a capital override on the ballot in November, and if that passes, does that then cover the 1.7 million that we have built in here? Does that free up this 1.7 million?
Madam Vice President, Board Member Kirby, what ifs? What we could possibly propose for the capital override to fund could free up some of these dollars. But what I would say, though, is due to the state of Arizona not funding the capital over many, many years without the state funding SFB and being able to do preventative maintenance or give us preventative maintenance dollars, for the facilities for the repair and maintenance, as we saw earlier in the FMG presentation, far exceeds this dollar amount. So we could free it up and do something else with it. We could reallocate it and put more towards facilities and less for technology. We could come back to the board and use it for a different use. So there are a lot of what ifs that we could do if we choose to put the capital override onto a ballot, if the board does, and then if that measure possibly passes, how we can do that. Now that measure won't pass until halfway through the budget year, so some of these dollars might have already be spent.
Okay. I'm following you. So I'm also hearing you say it's also tied to a possible bond initiative as well. It's not just the capital override, only because a bond might have new builds, which then affects the FMG report that we saw, which then affects these numbers.
Yeah, Madam Vice President, Board Member Kirby, absolutely. Other than the bond is for major renovation, repair, and rebuilds, whereas capital needs might be used for some minor repairs which a bond couldn't pay for. So we might need to go replace a window.
Right.
But that's not a bond item. It's
right, but if we rebuild a school, then that takes away all of those needs kind of instantly.
For the 8 schools, but we still have many others. Yeah.
Okay, so that was my first question. My second question is on the same page, the 7+ years of service. As of what date?
Madam Vice President, Board Member Kirby, that's a great question. That is something, as I stated, we're still working through the meet and confer process with the 3 groups, but that is a topic of discussion, and I believe you will see more concrete dates of this by this date, by this date, by that date, by this date, once we finalize, because we are talking about that.
Okay, and so to that point, I'm going to switch over to the next page. I see how we've got building blocks of pay increases, and let's just kind of hone in for the time being on certified teachers, right? So we have a one-time 7+ years of service. We have an increase of base pay for 7+ years of service. we're doing horizontal movement. We're also giving a 3%, it looks like, to everyone. So at the end of the day, once we do all of this, I have two questions. One is, what is our total new average teacher salary look like in comparison to other districts? How much progress did we make? And then secondly, when you talk about equivalence, and I understand that as well, it's been our practice in the district to come up with a dollar amount, a 3% equivalent. In this case was almost $2.2 million, and then work with the association how you want to do that. But somehow we have to be able to infuse into that process where our needs, where our most intense needs are. For example, could it be math? Do we need to focus in on math teachers to recruit and retain the very best math teachers so that we can address our math achievement in elementary in this district? That's just a hypothetical. I'm not sitting up here saying that that's what we need to go do. But how do we work with the associations with that level of detail and expertise to hone in on, rather than just blanket pay increases for everybody, to really hone in on where we need to focus to ultimately drive achievement?
Okay. Madam Vice President, Board Member Kirby, great questions. In this item as it sits right now, and again, I say that because it could change. So as this sits right now, we are not looking to change the salary schedule. Okay, so I believe what your question was is, what would the new starting salary? Right now, we're not looking at changing the salary schedule, so the starting salary would be the same.
Okay, so this is all under the existing salary schedule. And
Yes.
meet and confer process is not looking at changing any parts of the schedule at all, not looking at stipends, additional stipends, changing stipends, none of that. It's all status quo.
Madam Vice President, Board Member Kirby, no, there has been discussion inside the meet and confer process of taking a look at the salary schedule in many senses, not just the dollar amount of it, but maybe even how it looks.
Okay.
And discussions. But again, those are ongoing, and that's a part of the process.
Okay, one last question, then I'll be done. You mentioned the ADM changes would affect these numbers. What is your current ADM assumption on this page, as the numbers reflected right there?
Madam Vice President, Board Member Kirby, currently right now, and I apologize, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but we are using the current 100th day ADM, which we've talked about is slightly down. I don't have the exact number, and if I say a number, I don't want to be wrong, but it's right around the weighted count will be right around 30,000 students.
And does this assume, I'm sorry, I
Sure.
do one last question, this time for real. Does this assume that it's just that the budgets will be set next year with just 1 year of enrollment versus the proposed legislation of 2?
Madam Vice President, Board Member Kirby, wonderful question. This draft, as it sits right now, does not take into effect any changes due to current year funding, which I think is what you're
That's what I'm asking.
what you're
Thank you.
mentioning. So it does not, no.
Okay, thanks.
If I might add something here, just to your question about base salary, we had a conversation today in my office, and we're going to continue to investigate that. The interesting piece, there is some material floating around in the educational world that shows beginning salaries of various districts. What it doesn't show is what that number really means. Does it include any incentives? Does it include any Fund 12? What does it mean? So we have to go back out to the districts and say, what is your base salary M&O only dollar? So that we can define apples to apples, because right now when I look at that spreadsheet, it's not apples to apples, and it really is skewing some information for us, but we're going to dig into that because we want to know if we're off the market.
Right. And one last comment, this is not a question. Okay. Thank you for showing this of where Prop 123 dollars might possibly go if it does pass. At some point, we need to talk about the other side of the equation as well. And what does our budget look like if Prop 123 does not pass? And have that dialogue, I'm hoping before May 17th. Thank you.
Okay, Board Member Hartman.
Thank you, Vice President Sneed. Mr. O'Brien, thank you. Did I? Oh, I did I say that? It's a locational.
Exactly, exactly.
Perleberg, thank you. All right. That's funny. Okay. Mr. O'Brien, first of all, thank you for once again walking us through this detail. And it is fairly high level. A couple of points I just wanted to validate and underscore. So first, the actual ability to deliver on these additional expenses, which are primarily salary, which is good, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, really is incumbent upon Prop 123 passing. So I, like Board Member Kirby, will be interested if we don't, if we're unsuccessful as a state, what that will look like. However, having said that and being hopeful, what I'm reading here when I look at the one-time and then the ongoing expenses is that I'm looking at more as a step up as opposed, and I'm hopeful then we have kind of a focused approach to attracting and retaining key positions. But I talk about this as a step up because we hear over and over again from our teachers from a certified as well as a classified perspective that we have gone without any compensation increases for the past number of years. I also understand that approximately 80% of our budget is compensation and salary. So I am pleased to, when I look at these numbers, and I'm just sharing this back with you to validate, the one-time investment of $5 million is about 70% compensation and benefits and 30% curriculum, facility, and technology, of which you've already spoke to, which is that's been an unfunded mandate for quite a few years to the tune of $8 to $10 million a year for the past 6 to 8 years. So that $33 million we saw from FMG represents the $80 to $100 million we haven't been funded. But even so we take a look at that, and then the ongoing piece, I see it split more like an 8%, 92%. 92% being comp and benefits, and then that 8% primarily being SRO and programs. So I guess two questions for you. One, I'm validating that, yeah, this actually is more like a 90-10 split between the two, which is moving us even further in the direction of compensation and salary, basically putting every dollar we possibly can into our teachers, our certified, classified, and administrative paychecks. The other, so validating that, and then number two is always a favorite subject of mine. SRO, which is our security resource officers, really was partnered with the city of Scottsdale, and they've kind of been picking up that tab or helping us over the past several years. Where are we in conversations with them? I'd love to see city of Scottsdale to continue to partner with us in that capacity. So where are we on that as well?
Madam Vice President, Board Member Hartman, some good questions. So to just kind of validate your figures, we've calculated them a little bit differently. We look at an 87% for compensation, and that just takes the certified, classified, and administrative. When you add back into the TOAs and the instructional resources, yes, your numbers get a little bit closer. And on the fiscal year 16 one-time funds, yeah, they're very close to that. So we are trying to get dollars into people's hands as much as we can. As of the school resource officers, as of my information, I do not have any meetings set up with the city of Scottsdale to further that that discussion. When I've spoken with them, that was a one-time proposition, and that's where they set it for. But I will not speak for Dr. Birdwell, and I don't know if she's gone down that road anywhere.
I have not, but I certainly will.
Anyone else?
I'll be quick.
Board Member Jackson?
Danny, thank you. Also, just take this moment to congratulate you again, your department, on your financial, I can't remember the exact term in the award, but your financial reporting award again. You guys do good work there.
Thank you.
My colleagues have covered most everything very well, in my opinion, and I did want to reiterate, I along with Board Member Hartman, loved seeing the slide on reoccurring costs that how much is going to compensation, which I know is an area that we focus on a lot here, trying to do what we can to help our teachers and the rest of our staff, but they're underpaid for sure, and it's a tragedy. I did want to go back to a question that Board Member Kirby had, and I guess I'm kind of going over some same ground real quickly, but it had to do with the capital funds for curriculum, facilities, and technology, the $1.75 million. I guess where I'm going with this is sort of the same line of question Board Member Kirby had. I would like to just publicly state that I would like, if possible, more of that one-time money to go into compensation, if at all possible. I know we are behind on capital funding. If we do get a capital override passed and a bond passed, if those do get put on the ballot, I would like, I guess I'm not looking for a commitment from anybody, but I certainly would like to reiterate that I would very much, we all would, I think, would like to see what we could do to help our teachers with that funding. And even, Danny, I guess I'm going out on a limb, that's about 35% of the one-time funding, roughly. I mean, my calculation is rough, but you know, I would like to see more of that go to teacher compensation, I guess. I'm just going publicly, if at all possible. We're losing good teachers in this district. We all hear it every day. And so whatever we could do, even with that one-time funding to help our teachers, I would like to publicly just state, if it's at all possible, if we get a capital override pass, I would like to look to see if at all possible, shift that money towards teacher compensation. I know everyone's doing their best, but it's an important point I thought that needed to be made. So thank you.
Madam Vice President, Board Member Jackson, definitely take those comments and requests under consideration as we continue to move through the process, and see if there's some ideas that the leadership and myself can build on, maybe trying to come up with some ideas for that request. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Board Member Kirby?
Thank you. Listening to Board Member Jackson, I do share appreciation in spending many of these dollars on compensation, but I want to just caution us in our enthusiasm that we still have 8% of Prop 301 dollars in our teachers' base pay, which we need to be cognizant starts to phase out in 5 years. So I'm unclear on the recurring Prop 123 dollars that were put up there, and I don't really expect you to go into it tonight, but I do think we need to talk about it sometime soon. How much of the Prop 123 dollars are actually just backfilling the Prop 301 dollars that sunsets in 5 years, and then knowing that Prop 123 sunsets 5 years after that, at some point we have to make a commitment as a district to not kick this can down the road for a board, 2 or 3 boards to have to deal with. We don't want to put anyone else in the same position that we're in today, and take responsibility for it and start moving recurring M&O dollars into our teachers' base pay so we can get ourselves out of this conundrum. So I just would like to just remind us that this is something we need to tackle now.
Thank you. I would just like to add my comments to basically what all fellow board members have stated tonight. I think we are all agreeing that compensation is an absolute priority for our staff, and we are a business of people, and we can never forget that. And we do need to fix going forward that we have we confirm and in our budget we show that we have to maintain our staff and retain and bring in the best that we can, and that is our priority in our budget. I have to go back for a little clarification. I'm going to try and phrase the question carefully. So Prop 123, both the fiscal year one-time dollars and the fiscal year 17 onward dollars are contingent upon, I mean, both of those are contingent upon 123 passing. Is that correct?
Madam Vice President, I'm going to be really careful here when I try to answer this question.
I was nervous asking the question.
The items that were presented here tonight are based on the revenue and dollars that would come from 123 should it pass.
Okay. So then again, yes, to restate another plan then obviously is needed. So going back to the fiscal year 16, and again, the capital funds, I think we all have our little sights set on that capital funds. Because again, yes, compensation, our employees, our staff are our priority. So what I'm trying to understand is if that's in our fiscal year 16, for items that are listed, the curriculum, facilities, and technology, I'm trying to understand what it's been targeted to pay for that hasn't already been paid for in fiscal year 16's budget. Does that make sense?
Madam Vice President, I think so. So if I
Okay.
don't go down the right direction, please steer me in the right one. So there are large dollars amounts that the capital override pays for when it comes to curriculum and technology. That capital override revenue no longer exists.
Right.
And we have worked diligently with Dr. Benson and Mr. Clark and the other departments to try to stretch the revenues that we did have as far as we can. They've done a great job, and we've stretched that about as far as we can. So without any more revenue coming in, because we no longer have the override, we still have the need. And so these dollars will help support that need to be able to continue doing things like curriculum materials, instructional materials, software licenses, computers that might be aging out.
Right,
And
right.
so since there is no more revenue because the capital override is gone and the state has cut our capital so drastically over the past few years, and we moved some of those dollars into M&O, the capital funds are running drastically low. And so these dollars will help make sure that happens to get through to either get capital funds back from the state or possibly in November go for a capital override to help.
Okay, well, I guess, and that's what I'm kind of trying to understand. Are those dollars, that 1.7 million, is that to hold on to in fiscal year 16 for payments made in fiscal year 17?
Yeah, Madam President, so as part of, you want to just come here and stand next to me and slap me if I go too far? In the initiative that was created to be able to create Prop 123, part of that initiative that the legislative passed states that we are allowed to roll over dollars from Prop 123 from fiscal year 16 into fiscal year 17. So we would roll those dollars in through the budget process so that they are there for 17 to be able to make purchases in 17.
Okay.
I think that
So
answers your
I
question.
think that's the clarity I'm looking for, because I'm just picturing going, if we have bills in fiscal year 16, those have to be paid, and they've already been budgeted for. So that 1.7 million really is for fiscal year 17,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And, I guess this is the same question the rest of the board members had. If it would seem to me there has to be, especially for this, these are things that we need and use every single year, there has to be a Plan B already in place for fiscal year 17 for these items if 1, 2, 3 doesn't pass. Wouldn't that be accurate?
Madam Vice President, as we go through the budget process currently right now, there are ideas to look at that, but I think you have to go a couple more steps maybe in the process. So if we have dollars inside capital can roll from year to year to year to year. If we do not, in 18, 19, 20, 21, if we do not have any capital dollars either through the state or through a capital override, we won't have dollars to pay for the capital needs that we need within the district. So to say that these dollars might not be needed, it all depends on a lot of what ifs, and some of those what ifs are the state funding and a capital override. These dollars might roll into an 18 or a 19 if we can do some more efficiencies in 17 to continue to stretch the dollars as far as we can through our various departments.
Okay.
But right now, I know, speaking to some of our departments, there's a panic for capital dollars because we don't have a revenue source for them right now.
Okay. All right. Is it informational?
Yes.
To say that on, what will happen on May 17th? Yes. Is that just informational? No, I can't. May 17th is, that if anybody's wondering about Prop 1, 2, 3, the date is May 17th, and that's just a factual statement, right?
Yep, that's
Just
it.
saying. I'm just saying.
Good.
Okay, I think that does it for me. Anyone else? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Board Member Kirby.
Thank you. With respect to that capital curriculum, I think part of what you're hearing from us tonight is that it is a black box to us as board members. We have not historically had visibility to it. We don't know what our spending has been out of it year to year to year. We don't know what our current balance is as of today. And we're trying to, I think, in our own ways, draw that out. And so I'm just going to be very blunt and ask for it. Is we need to see the historical spending and what our balance is, and then what we need it for in the future, almost to the level of what FMG presented, to that level of detail. Because what we don't want to do is pad it, put too much into it, when it could have gone to salaries. Yep. Thank you.
We have our sights on it, basically. Yeah.
We'll get back to you on that one.
We can review that request and get you information.
Thank you. Board Member Hartman.
I'm only adding to this particular comment only because I have had a little bit of visibility, and I really do think our fellow board members, as well as our community, need to understand that unfunded mandate when it comes to SFB, School Facility Board, and what this has funded is really significant. We're talking $80 to $100 million of costs, a good portion of which, not all, but a good portion would cover things like this. So helping us understand what that looks like, I think, is really important because it's like if you have a bank account and you deposit nothing in it and you're living off the savings for 10 years, pretty soon you have nothing. And so it's just one of those, I think, the more we understand, the more we can, help guide those types of decisions. So thank you.
Definitely think SFB will be part of the discussion.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Brand. Okay. So next we have action items. Action item 9A, K-5 World Language Modified Adoption.
Okay, good evening, Madam Vice President, board members, Dr. Birdwell and Sandra, and all that are here with us this evening at Coronado or on camera with us. At the last board meeting, Dr. McNeil and I provided an update on the progress of the implementation of Phase 1 of our World Language Program offerings in SUSD. And at that time, we indicated we'd be coming back to you to share the resources identified by our World Language Modified Adoption Committee to support those program options. So this evening, I'm happy to have that opportunity to do just that. Specific to this information item, we will very briefly revisit the program models identified by members of our Teaching and Learning Department, share those 4 resources our Modified Adoption Committee identified to best support those program models, ask for your approval of the list of our resources for the 2016-17 school year, and clarify what our next steps with principals and other departments look like moving forward. As we shared at the last meeting, in our investigation of successful world language models, we identified 3 main types of programs at the elementary level: exposure programs, also sometimes referred to as FLEX, or foreign language experiences, foreign language in the elementary school or FLES programs, and immersion programs, which can take the shape of a school-wide model or an opt-in model within a school. As a reminder, all of the schools included in Phase 1 of this world language rollout for next year will feature an exposure or modified FLES program tailored to the specific needs of their students. So the Adoption Committee has identified a list of resources specific to these 2 program options. I won't go into the details again of the program models this evening because we did that at the last board meeting, except I did want to clarify that the biggest variations between exposure and FLES programs involve the number of languages that students can choose from, the level of language proficiency and cultural knowledge to be achieved, and the time that's required to reach those program goals. An additional factor that impacts these program models includes how our sites intend to offer a world language program offering. Will they embed this offering into their existing specials rotation with a designated teacher providing classroom instruction, or do they intend to rely more on an online resource to provide the instruction to students? All of these factors were considered by our Adoption Committee, and thus the reason for the list of resources that we'll ask you to approve this evening is there's a good deal of flexibility within these models. In keeping with our adoption guidelines in SUSD, the list of resources shared tonight came from a modified adoption committee comprised of teachers, principals, district reps, and parents to identify the best resources specific to Phase 1 of our implementation. I wanted to pause and thank all that served on this committee, including our facilitators, Dr. Whitmore, and our World Language Curriculum Specialist, Julie Vasquez, for the work and time and energy that all put into this work this year. You'll notice on the attachment that was shared with you, and for those that are with us tonight, on the slide in view at the minute, our committee identified 4 resources to meet the needs of these various program models. I don't want to simplify or be reductionist in the conversations that happen within our committee, but a quick summary. For exposure or FLES classes that aim to allow students to select from a menu of languages, and where instruction is online, web-based, and a specific teacher may not be identified to teach the world language class, the committee recommends an online-based program as the most inclusive instructional resource for this program option. For exposure or FLES programs that intend to provide a sequential learning experience in a language, and that there will be a teacher involved in regular and sequential classroom instruction, the committee identified 2 different resources specific to Mandarin and Spanish languages. I think there was a typo in the original that you might have had that said Global Learning Project, and so just wanted to tease out that it is Global Language Project. To support all the program models, the committee identified Duolingo as an open source resource to support students' learning. This supplementary resource is particularly appropriate for students at 3rd grade or above, as parts of the program do involve a fair amount of reading and writing. As is typical in our adoption work in SUSD, after a committee has identified the most essential pieces in these resources to support instruction, our job at the district level is to work with the identified vendors and negotiate the very best prices based on the information that we have for the resources recommended by the committee. Those best prices are reflected on the sheet that has been provided for you. In the spirit of site autonomy and innovation in this modified adoption, you'll notice that our spreadsheet isn't quite as neat and concise as we typically like to bring to you, as it includes a series of if-then scenarios. to allow our sites to choose from the list of resources identified. You'll also notice our pricing sheet includes projections for 5 schools in Phase 1, as that was the number first identified to participate in Phase 1 of this implementation. I wanted a quick pause and give a quick shout out to Candace Schreiber and Kay Stockley for their patience and persistence in negotiating these best prices in this modified adoption within this context. The time and energy they've been affording to this work has been significant this spring to give our sites and our governing board a better look of what each resource looks like in terms of a cost analysis based on what our sites might choose. 2 important clarifications before moving on. You'll notice that this list of recommended resources includes the resource currently used by 2 of our sites that rolled out world language instruction during the school year last year, based on the support they had from their parent-teacher organizations. Second, we wanted to clarify that the recommendations from this committee are specific to world language program options scheduled within the regular school day. In talking with Dr. Thuman in community schools, we had at least 5 elementary schools that offered unique world language learning options this year through community schools. Those programs are often scheduled in 6 to 12-week blocks of instruction held before or after school. And while the identified resources on this list could be used in these settings, some of those current before and after school learning opportunities are taught by a local teacher, exposing students to a world language, and we want to honor those options and allow those unique opportunities through community ed to continue. So, tonight we'd like to ask our governing board to approve the list of instructional materials, including an open source resource that's been identified by our World Language Instructional Materials Committee as the primary and supplementary curriculum resources to support this Phase 1 of our World Language implementation for the 2016-17 school year. We're being purposeful to ask for your approval of these resources for 1 year. That's not typical of how we like to do things. We usually bring things in front of our board, opting with our capital override dollars for a 7-year adoption. This 1-year approval will allow us to work with our sites and evaluate the successes of the resources they elect to use during the 2016 school year prior to adopting their use for future years. This will allow us to carefully consider what's working, what maybe might not be working, and why, so we can respond to that. But it'll also allow us to consider new resources that may emerge next year or different combinations of those resources we may ask you to approve, that we're asking you to approve this evening. It will also allow us to renegotiate prices to allow additional schools to join and participate in Phase 2 during the 17-18 school year. Upon board approval this evening, our next steps include continuing to meet with principals participating in this Phase 1 implementation to confirm their program choice and confirm the instructional material or materials that best meet their program choice and needs of their kids. After those confirmations, we'll schedule dates for professional development for the teachers that are identified to ensure they have all the supports they need for the successful start next year, and a loop back with our communications department to revise our world language website to better clarify the program choices of our schools that are participating in Phase 1. Again, I'd like to thank our adoption committee for this very unique modified adoption work to identify the list of recommendations that's before you. We also wanted to thank our parent council for inviting us in to respond to questions posed by our parents, our community, and for their coaching to our principals involved in Phase 1 to message how they will respond to any changes that may happen with other program offerings at their campus as a result of adding world language at their campus. I want to celebrate our elementary principals who've been thoughtful in their considerations of these program offerings, and my colleagues that have been heavily involved in these conversations all year, especially Dr. Whitmore, Julie Vasquez, and our rock stars at the warehouse supporting all things instructional services. Also wanted to thank Dr. McNeil for his continued leadership along this, now it's been over a year-long journey. And with that, I'd be happy to try to take your questions.
I'm looking for lights. Board Member Kirby.
I believe this is an easy question. Can you just confirm, since we just talked about this, what is the funding source for the materials?
I don't want to
This
misspeak.
initiative.
Unrestricted capital is what's been listed, but I'm going to let Danny explain that.
Madam Vice President, Board Member Kirby, we have identified some unrestricted capital dollars that we will be able to use for this adoption.
I could have said that.
Can I just jump in here real quick since you're standing right there? No.
I'll stay.
Are all expenses for this adoption, has that already been found funding for? As far as staffing, all costs, I mean, it's not contingent upon anything, is that correct?
Madam Vice President, excellent question. Typically, when we see something like this, an implementation in a district, they'll either choose to add staffing or add resources because they didn't add staffing. What we've done with the models that our 5 elementary schools are considering, there are no staffing additions, allocations. It's all been allowed so far to work within the regular school day of those participating in Phase 1. So the additional dollars that we need are specific to the curriculum resources in front of you. And it depends on where they situate that class, within specials or outside, as to which resource best fits their model. And they're just teasing all that out yet.
Okay. All right, thank you. Board Member Hartman.
Thank you. Just really a quick question. So first, Dr. Benson, thank you for the follow-up work on this. It really comes across as a very thoughtful, thorough, inclusive process and reflective of our community, parents, what they would like to see in our schools. Quick question, because this is a little bit of expansion in a way, so we're covering Spanish, French, Japanese, Mandarin, Chinese, and Russian. My question is, if we approve this, do we have the talent, the actual resources, the teachers with the experience to deliver this, or do we have to go and then kind of shuffle around and figure that out?
Excellent question, Madam Vice President and Board Member Hartman. That is kind of the reason why you see the program choices or the recommended resources as different. If one of our sites chooses to offer multiple languages, it'll be a different resource that we recommend, because that would likely be an online-based resource that wouldn't require a teacher know all of those languages. So the online resource would be sufficient for that. If a site chooses to offer one sequential learning opportunity in Spanish or in Mandarin, we're looking for a specific teacher that can help us out in those settings. So that's kind of the difference in the variation of the program options. Multiple choices, not going to find a teacher that can speak all of those languages. Program choice specific to Spanish or Mandarin, we're going to look for a rock star that can support us with that and give them the materials they need to be successful.
Okay. Board Member Jackson.
Dr. Benson, thank you again. Great presentation. This is a kind of a follow-up on, I think, on Mrs. Perleberg's question. Danny, this is kind of, I think the question, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. The funding for this, would you explain again the funding for this real quick? That was a little unclear. And I think the question we have is sustainability for this program going forward. And can you just address that, please?
Sure. Madam Vice President, Board Member Jackson. So throughout the year, as Dr. Benson and her team continued to look at this, and then earlier this spring when we chose to do this at the elementary schools, we then went and worked on it and grabbed some costs that we believe was associated with it, and are working through the budget process as we continue to build the budget for next year, saying, okay, now this needs a line item. And so we're working through that with the unrestricted capital budget so that we ensure. As with our prior discussion, again, because instructional materials is paid for out of capital and unrestricted capital hasn't been funded for many years, and we're not sure exactly about the capital override currently right now, it's tough to say that this can be done for the next 20 years or 10 years or nothing, but I think with some of the dollars that we have and some of the budget allocations that we have in some of the funds that can be used to pay for this, I think we can get at least through 3 or 4 years.
Can I do a quick follow-up on that with respect to sustainability? You pose a very good question, Board Member Jackson. At the last meeting, the conversation that the board entertained included, could we monitor how many students we believe we will gain because of this innovative program offering, and would that allow us to offset costs moving forward? And that's part of the reason we're asking for a 1-year
taking a look at this and then do a program evaluation and see what's sustainable over time. I also want to do a huge celebration of our adoption committee, Julie Vasquez, Diane Whitmore, and our principals for being thoughtful and aware of the budget situation and knowing that the pieces that we pick, the essential pieces, we absolutely want to ensure our teachers are successful, but we're going to pick the best pieces that fit, that are essential to start this next year. And they've been very thoughtful in those conversations already.
Fantastic. I'd like to follow up real quickly. Thank you, Danny. And Dr. Benson, my question about sustainability is obvious. I mean, we don't want to start down the path with a program that we're not pretty comfortable that we can sustain, obviously, if at all possible. But having said that, this is a huge celebration, and could not be more in favor of this. And if we have to stretch ourselves and start down this path, maybe with, as Danny said, 3 or 4 years, this is something that I believe is such a celebration, such a positive move. We will find the funding, I believe, to sustain this program going forward. And I wanted to reiterate what Board Member Hartman said, the thoughtful nature of how this was presented, how the sites have so much discretion as to which direction each site wants to go with this program. I think everybody on the board is in favor of. It's clearly not a top-down push. Each site can go at it in the best manner for that site. That's a huge plus. This whole program and how it's been approached is, I think, outstanding. So thank you for the approach to the committee, and let's go forward.
Thank you. It's been a colossal team effort.
Any other comments? Yes, all good. All right, so then do I have a motion to approve action item 9A, K-5 World Language Modified Adoption?
So moved.
Board Member Jackson moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes with a vote of 4-0. And just to clarify, Board Member Hartman seconded the motion. All right, so next, do I have any requests for future actions? We have a full plate. No future actions. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. I didn't see who was first. Board Member Hartman? Sorry.
I hate to put a future action on this list, so let's figure out how to do it, and if we need to be flexible, I'm definitely open to it. But something that I've been thinking about is we have district performance metrics, which we had talked about in the past in terms of reporting out on those on a quarterly basis. I think it's incumbent upon us to kind of look at what our target metrics were and where they are, if we have the data, sometime between now and the end of the year. And as importantly, and maybe more importantly, I'd really like a discussion, and once again, the timing on this is flexible, of what our future metrics need to look like, because we are making some pretty significant budget decisions and leadership decisions, which I am certain you're making those decisions because we're expecting particular outcomes. And so what do those outcomes, where are we today? Where do we think we can be? And, what's the timeline to get there?
Okay. Board Member Kirby.
Thank you. I just want to make sure it makes the list, the teacher evaluation high-level process that we discussed earlier, and the appeal best practices. And that can get pushed until after the start of the new fiscal year, for sure. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Do I have any governing board reports? Board Member Jackson.
I'll be brief. I know we've been here a while. I had the pleasure to go to the Western Regional First Robotics Competition at Grand Canyon University 2 weeks ago, and I could not have been more proud as a governing board member of of our teams from SUSD, all 4 of them. We got to get Desert Mountain up there, and I know we will. They're doing a lot up there, but gosh, Coronado and Chaparral and Arcadia, Saguaro High School, teams were all very competitive. They had a lot of enthusiasm. I was very proud of our school district's representation there, and the fact that 2 of our teams are going to the world competition in St. Louis is incredible, since I think there are only 4 teams maybe coming out of that whole competition going. I might be wrong on that, but not many. And Arcadia, who's not going to the Worlds, but their award for sportsmanship was a huge victory. So anyway, we looked real good at that competition.
Excellent. Board Member Hartman.
Thank you. Since the last board meeting, Drs. Birdwell and Von Echten and I had the opportunity to meet with a couple of leaders from Dr. Crow's both Innovation and Community Outreach Office. And what I thought was really important and exciting about that is, as we all know, well, we don't all know this, but there's there's a leadership mandate from Dr. Crow in our state to increase college-level graduates in our state from 35% to 65%. And that's really important because 65% of our jobs by the year 2020 are going to require some type of post-secondary education. But what's really exciting, I think, and hopefully we've already gotten some initial response, is that the real opportunity in our state, or one of the opportunities in our state to achieve that goal, is actually college completion within 6 years. And as a state average, only 19% of the students in our state graduate from college and in-state college within 6 years, 19%. Now, the good news from an ABOR, so Arizona Board of Regents, this is all their data, the 2 highest performing schools, 2 of the highest performing large district schools in our state in terms of college graduation are 2 of our schools. We're number 1 and number 2. But that's based on data from 2013 is still 54 and 55%. So if we can move the needle through college readiness to get more college graduates ready and into the workforce, then those practices that we can create, we can share with others. And so one of the important outcomes that came that Dr. Van Echten is actually taking the lead on is ASU is willing to share our students' performance data. So how are our graduates doing at Arizona State, so that then we can kind of reverse engineer that and figure out how can we ready them in a better fashion so that we move the needle on our college graduates. And so I just wanted to thank Drs. Birdwell and Von Echten for taking the time to have this conversation. And then we were fortunate enough that Arizona State reciprocated and said, hey, we can give you the data. So I don't know if there's anything, it's all preliminary to expand on, but I just wanted to acknowledge the time, because it takes time to have those conversations. So I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That looks like all. Dates of upcoming meetings. Thursday, April 28th at 3 p.m., a study session. Thursday, May 5th at 3 p.m., a study session. And Tuesday, May 10th at 5 p.m., a regular governing board meeting. And any other comments or statements? Board Member Kirby?
Before I make a motion to adjourn, I'd just like to congratulate you on running a very smooth meeting with very short notice. You're a pro, so good job.
Thank you very much.
I move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Board Member Jackson seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Yay!
Well done, Barbara.